Hey there folks, welcome back to the Overflow, where we take a bit of time to answer any questions that we were unable to get to over the course of the last two podcasts. My name is Micah Curtis.
And I'm Alex Baldwin. I was the Hatman.
And we got some pretty good ones this week. As always, we really appreciate you guys giving these to us. And just remember, when it comes to questions on the podcasts, Super Chat, patrons, and Twitter questions that are posted prior to the podcast are always going to get priority. These are ones that we were basically unable to get to for whatever reason. So hopefully one of these days we'll get the chance to do just a Q&A stream. But it just kind of seems, at least from my perspective, when it comes to a week of podcasts, there's always so many new questions that get brought up in both fields that we cover that it's interesting to keep up with, that's for sure. In fact, one thing that I'm trying to make sure is that we have less and less questions where we can answer I don't know, which is sort of the toughest part for me. So let's get right into it. So should we start with politics or entertainment this time?
Yeah, let's just go in order. Let's go politics first.
All right, politics it is. I was thinking about flipping a coin, but so the Autist Whisperer asks thoughts on Banfield calling out Aziz Ansari's accuser. Well, that's kind of a entertainment question. Sort of. Well, it's a little bit of both, I guess.
We covered that on the podcast. That was the response letter that I read.
Oh yes. Okay. So yeah, we did do that. So Autist Whisperer. That's on the. That's at the end of the entertainment podcast this week.
No, that's on the politics podcast.
Was it? I'm pretty sure we did all the. I'll say we did all the Aziz Ansari stuff on entertainment.
Okay, yeah, it is. See, I don't even. Yeah, never mind. We're getting our questions mixed up. Anyway, we're professional here. Let's move on to the next.
Yes. There was another one that's in this list that was already answered. So Hellblazer, you asked us, do we think New California will become a thing? That's the end of the politics podcast. To find your answer to that one. Kaito 1984 asked us an interesting one. Do we think that we'll ever see city-states in the United States?
That's interesting. I mean, that kind of falls in line with what you're talking about Cook County separating itself from the rest of Illinois, essentially.
Yeah,
more or less make it a city-state. I mean, state in actual part of the United States version, but nonetheless, I suppose the same concept would apply. I don't really know that we'll see that sort of concept come back again. I just think the world is a bit too big for city-states nowadays.
I'm inclined to agree, but I don't know. I mean, some of these cities that are in the United States, especially the three biggest ones, are gigantic.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder to myself if they continue to expand, whether or not they would end up that way. In which case, I would wonder maybe 50 years from now if it would become a thing. It would obviously take some time, but then again, half the city could freaking collapse on itself like Detroit has. So it's hard telling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think for me to give a definitive answer, I would say not now would basically be my thought process, but maybe someday.
I think a lot of it depends on our path towards globalization at this point too. If there is a resounding rejection or overall resentment of greater globalization efforts in the future, it is entirely possible that we could see a rise in city-states. But at the same time, I think because we are moving towards that goal, whether we like it or not, I don't see it happening, at least not anytime soon.
Yeah. Red Knight asks, do we think that an ethnostate could work as a micronation? Not quite sure what he means by micronation. I kind of had said that I was done with the whole alt-right thing, but I don't think that this question has ever been posed to us. So here's my thoughts on the whole concept of an ethnostate in general. People always bring up different African nations and things like that as ethnostates, and they work according to what they say. Well, no, they don't. And the one thing that you'll constantly see, and of course they like to say that, oh, the Africans are subhumans, that's why this happens. No, shut up. The reason that they are constantly in conflict with one another, constantly in states of no, I wouldn't say war, but yeah, just conflict. And there's something can always spark up. It's because for the longest time, Africa has been in a consistent state of flux. It doesn't have there a lot of countries there just do not have unifying philosophies with one another, and as such, they believe that their particular tribe is superior to the other tribe, and then they end up fighting each other over whatever, and it continues to happen. And the ultimate part of the reason that this is going on is, again, because of the belief of superiority, the belief that your one tribe is superior to the other tribe. And again, this is how we often see wars between nations consistently happen on the most basic level. Is we are superior, therefore we should have your shit. And I know that people are going to talk Godwin's law constantly, but Hitler was the same way. And maybe some people say, well, the alt-right isn't Hitlerian in their thought process. Well, that's not completely true. There are some people in the alt-right that say they're nonviolent, don't want violence, they just want, their own little white safe space. But there are those that are. There are those that would probably find the moderates in charge, shoot them in the back, and take over. And then they'd be at war. Because they believe in white superiority. So, again, any nation that is based solely on its ethnicity, and that's it, will ultimately collapse upon itself. And some people, we laughed about this when we did the Richard Spencer Sargon of Akkad postmortem about, the idea of Poland and Israel being ethnostates. And part of the reason we laughed about that is because there's something beyond just being Polish. There's something beyond just being Israeli in both of those nations. There is a sense of national pride. And also you'll notice that both nations are deeply religious. So you're not going to find Poland going to war with its neighbors anytime soon because they don't see themselves as superior to their neighbors. But they see Poland as its own state, separate from all others, and with its own culture. Same with Israel. And ultimately, both nations do want peace. So that is ultimately the issue that I see, is that, and on, we could even say the same thing for Iran. We could say the same thing for the Palestinians. They want all Jews dead. Why? Because they think that they're superior. Because they think it's the will of Allah. So yeah, when it comes down to this sort of thing, if you're basing a state not on belief systems, not on philosophy, not on anything along those lines, but purely just pure ethnicity, it will always end in war. It always does, and the state will fall, and then it'll have to get rebuilt. It is inherently confrontational. Just by its nature. And I know that there are people out there that would like to think that the opposite is going to happen. I'm sorry, but history says you're not only you're wrong, but you're ignorant. And I understand that that's a tough statement to swallow, but it's the truth. And if what Millennial Woe says is that you alt-right guys, and I'm not saying that Red Knight is, but you alt-right guys are always searching for the truth, maybe you should pick up a history book. Ant-Man, what do you think?
I think you hit the nail on the head. One of the key factors of an ethnostate would be an inherent belief that that ethnicity is superior to others. I mean, at that point, why else would you have the need, necessity for an ethnostate? And that superiority will often drive war. I mean, we talked last week or week before about the possibility of Iran being split up into 4 states, and they would essentially be ethnostates. And we said that'd be a bad idea because they'd constantly be at war with each other, vying for superiority. I think even as a micronation, there's always that possibility of growing larger, wanting more, and then starting conflicts that way. And I think it is a mistaken ideal at best, and a threat to peace at worst.
Yep. And I'd like to state this. I don't think that we don't hate these people as people.
No.
We
No.
really despise their ideas.
Yes.
Because we have, I mean, I've had problems with skinheads before and these types in my personal life. And it's because I have a sister who's adopted who's black. And most of the people I got in fights with my sophomore and junior year of high school were racist shitheads, basically. So, I have a default intolerance to this idea and its statements. Not to mention, it's just there's. Let me put it this way: there are three beefs that I have with the alt-right. First off, you lie all the time. Always. We talked about this yesterday with the guy, the white nationalist in the Warski stream, who said that prohibition was successful.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's not. Second, for being so open to new ideas, whenever new ideas are presented to you, you instantly try to throw it out the window. The idea that you're being, a large nanny state is saying that it's not comparable to Stalin, and that's a straw man. Well, no, you're just looking for an excuse not to listen, and that brings me to the third issue, the complete and total lack of willingness to argue in good faith. People have told me is like, oh, you ought to have James Alsop for a debate. You ought to have this alt-right guy, that alt-right guy, and I won't do it. It's because they refuse to debate in good faith. They absolutely refuse to. There's consistent use of logical fallacies. There's consistent twisting of the truth. There's it's a constant spew of nonsense. And I have not found an alt-right person yet that is honest about what's going on. They're consistently promoting their own narrative. And that's my problem with it. It's also my problem with social justice warriors, is that it is narrative above facts every single time. If you say that I have a narrative as a conservative, you know what? I will take that criticism. But my narrative is based on observance of what is real and what is not real. The alt-right can't say that. They think they know what's real, but in reality, they know what's real and they lie about it constantly. So that's why the one thing I always ask alt-right guys is one question: why can't you tell the truth? Why not? So when they're willing to tell the truth about their beliefs, and when they're willing to tell the truth about these sorts of things, then maybe I'll talk to them. But up until that point, I'm not gonna do this stupid song and dance of, no, I don't actually believe what Hitler said in Mein Kampf, and then you quote it almost verbatim in your belief systems. No, I have no tolerance for that. It's childish. Not gonna do it. CT117 asked us, what are our thoughts on women being in the police or military forces? Should we have the opportunity for them to actively serve? Yes.
Yeah, I don't see a problem with it.
If you can pull your weight, you can do the job.
Yep.
Obviously, for women, some women there will be physical limitations, but some of them not so much. You know, I've met women that are smaller and not as strong as a guy like me, but then again, I'm huge, as Hatman can attest.
Yes.
And but are when it comes to firearms usage, they're sharpshooters. They're very good with the weaponry that they use, and that's ultimately that's what as a police officer, that's kind of the equalizer is your gun. So yeah, I have no reason to think that they can't do it. I've never really been given a reason as to why they can't do it. It's just gonna depend on person to person. Because there are some men that can't serve either, for whatever reason. I have a guy I work with, who, you know, he said he was very honest with me. He's like, even at told me, he's like, even at your slimmest, the army would have turned you down if you were all muscle. It's because you're 6'2" and you're as wide as a door. You know, it's like getting into cover would be difficult for you. So, but yeah, I have no reason to think that there's anything wrong with it. It's just, again, if there are jobs that have certain physical demands, you have to be able to match those demands. Because I'm a security guard, you know, for a profession, and there's certain training I've had to do. There's certain things that I have to do on a daily basis. You know, I have to confront people to tell them get off private property. I have to be CPR certified. I have to be, you know, do all these things. And then there was somebody that I worked with for a point where she had said, when I said, you know, would you be willing to, you know, give like CPR to someone or tell somebody to get off private property? And she said no. And I'm like, well, then what are you doing here? You know, she's like, well, somebody might hit you. Yeah. And it's private property. It has to be defended. That's what we're paid to do. So that ultimately is the end of it. If there is a will to do the job, and you are capable of doing the job, I really don't care what gender you are. As long as you can do it, that's ultimately what matters.
Yeah. I mean, two women I know, I went to high school with, are currently serving in my hometown's police force. So,
all right,
they can do it.
Yeah, exactly. And on top of that, it's like I remember there was this female police officer who would talk to me pretty regularly when I was in Texas, and I wish I had taken her on a date because she was cute. But she was a state cop, and I never thought for an instant I could really do anything to her. Why? Because she had a Glock on her hip. So, yeah. All right, let's move on to entertainment. We got a few questions in regards to this. How would we react to rapper Lil Jon being a fixer in a Shadowrun film? Can he act?
I have a mildly amusing story about Lil Jon. Apparently, I was on a plane with him.
Really?
Going from RDU to LAX.
Interesting.
And I didn't realize it. I don't think anyone really realized it until he got off the plane, and some people in the airport were like, oh my God, it's Lil Jon. And my dad turns to me and he's like, you want to get a picture with him or something? I'm like, I have no idea who that is. I literally did not know who he was until I had the time to look him up, and I'm like, oh, okay.
The only reason that I will remember him is because of he was known for just going, yeah, okay, and
oh my God,
that was sort of how me and a couple of buddies of mine would, like, when some douchebag in high school would ask us to do something, like, and we're demanding it, we would just say that and do nothing. Micah, go get the basketball. Okay! I wouldn't get it. So, yeah, my only thought is, can he act? If he can, go for it. But I don't fucking know. I have no clue if he can or not. If he could pull the roll off, I say go for it. Other than that, I don't know. And I don't really know enough about Shadowrun to say that much, so. Which is weird because I own like 2 or 3 Shadowrun RPGs. I've never played them.
I still have Shadowrun for the Super Nintendo. I need to play that again.
Yeah, so I played a little bit of one of the games. I forgot about that. And it was pretty good. It's just I haven't been in the mood for a CRPG lately. Alright, Autis Whisperer asked, what do we think of the celebs threatening to leave the industry if Trump isn't impeached? Bye.
Hold on. Read that again?
What do we think of the celebs threatening to leave the industry if Trump is not impeached?
They threatened to leave the country if he became president. They haven't made good on it.
No, not the country, the movie industry.
They're not going to do that. They're not.
No, I don't think they would either.
No, they're not going to do that.
And if they did, I'd be like, see ya.
Yeah.
Now, I can't really think of like any one actor that like if they left the industry today, I would be like heartbroken over. Well, maybe Chris Evans, just because no more Captain America, but I don't think that would happen. I have no reason to believe that it would happen in any way, shape, or form. And then for the final question, it's a Star Wars question. CT117 asks, do we prefer Star Wars Legends or canon? What are the pros and cons of both?
That's tough.
I'm guessing with Legends he means the EU.
Legends is the old EU.
Is the what now? You cut out there for a second.
The old EU.
Oh, then canon, definitely.
Somewhat controversial. I'm gonna have to go with new canon too.
Yeah.
Simply because the old EU, it gave us such retarded stuff like the Yuuzhan Vong.
Ah!
Oh my god.
The Yuuzhan Vong are the are like Hellraiser stuff in Star Wars. It's
yes.
Stupid.
Yes. It's ridiculous.
Like the concept doesn't even make any sense. Like they can't be detected through the Force, but all of their stuff is organic.
Yeah, like it makes
what?
No sense. That it cheapened the concept of the Force. And even beyond them, you had equally stupid shit like Palpatine didn't actually die on the second Death Star.
Yeah.
You know, his spirit went into a clone body and stuff, which basically made Anakin Skywalker's sacrifice irrelevant.
Yes.
Like that? No, that's stupid.
It was so poorly thought out.
Like, I know there's plenty of good there. Old Republic stuff.
Well, that's technically still canon.
Yeah, dubious.
Darth Bane is canonical. By extension, Revan would have to be.
Darth Bane is canonical, but that doesn't automatically make Revan canonical, at least according to Disney.
That doesn't make any sense, though.
I think you just go ahead and say, you know what, KOTOR is canon.
Well, I think the only reason well, here's another thing is that in Rebels, the Mandalorian War is referenced as well.
Yeah.
So that's another part where Revan was in. So I don't think that. I think the only reason they haven't just come out and said it is because they're on shaky ground with EA right now. I think that's probably the only reason. I still, if you're referencing Bane in the Mandalorian Wars, I mean, it's really hard to say that like you can have both and not have Darth Revan and all that stuff. So I consider it canonical. But the only thing in the EU that I honestly miss is Kyle Katarn.
Yeah. Yeah. I still say they should have. That Rogue One. That still should have been Kyle Katarn and Jan Ors.
Well, that's the weird thing is the two characters are kind of similar to them.
They're incredibly similar. I think they should have survived and changed their names and then gone off to some ungodly part of the galaxy.
Yeah, but the possibility that the filmmakers who have made these films have even played the Jedi Knight games is slim to none.
I know.
So
I know.
But yeah, I mean, just about everything with the Star Wars EU I ever interacted with outside of the Jedi Knight stuff was just trash. It just was not very good. I mean, I could never really get into it. Even that comic book series with that one Sith Lord Darth Krayt was just kind of okay. Like, you have this ancestor of the Skywalker family who's basically a crackhead. He's addicted to death sticks.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, what the fuck? So, yeah. And even then, it was like, it had something stupid in that, because it's like, the Darth Krayt dude was hiding amongst the Sand People during the years of the Empire. You really think that Vader wouldn't have noticed that? So, yeah. EU sucks. I really don't understand people's attachment to it at all.
People are going to come after us for that now.
Hey, man. Not my fault it was bad. Don't blame me.
Oh, Lordy.
We cannot help it that the Yuuzhan Vong are stupid. Mara Jade's okay, but I say that only because she was in the Jedi Knight games.
That's one thing I really miss from the EU. It's Mara Jade.
I thought she was interesting enough, but it didn't really grab me.
I still say she should have at least gotten some kind of a mention in the new canon.
Yeah,
I suppose it's not completely unreasonable to stick her in there somewhere, but
no, not at this point.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that's all we got for this week. Just a reminder to you guys, don't forget to again, if you think you're gonna miss the podcast, please use the hashtag MicahQandA, spelled out QANDA, just because there was some confusion this week. And then we'll definitely get your question answered, and hopefully we have another successful podcast this next coming week, because this week was really good. We had a pretty big audience for about 20 to 30 more people more than we usually do. So hopefully we'll see you guys all next week. But until then, my name is Micah Curtis.
And I'm Alex Baldwin, also known as the Hatman.
And we will see you guys next week. Deus Volt.
Deus Volt.